So our last topic on doing Punnett squares is to do a two-trait cross. The idea being you have one trait on one chromosome, like chromosome number 1, and another trait on another chromosome, chromosome number 2. And you want to know what is the probability of inheriting two different traits together. And that would be our two-trait, or what we call a dihybrid cross. So if we're going to do two traits, our boxes are going to be bigger. It's not going to be an out of 4 situation, but an out of 16 situation. In your book, when you read this, you will see, as we've been going through this, your book will be talking about understanding like the probabilities and the phenotypes that will show up. So when you start reading, it'll say, if you cross homozygous and homozygous, then you get 100% this or that. If you cross two heterozygous pairs, you will get a 1/4, 1/2, 1/4 situation. So here, even in your book, it will tell you if you cross two heterozygous and you're looking for the two traits, so the combinations that you would learn, the phenotype ratio is that 9 out of 16 will show the dominant traits. 3 out of 16 will show one dominant and one recessive trait. And then 3 out of 16, another 3 out of 16 will show the opposite dominant recessive trait. And then 1 out of 16 will be all homozygous recessive. So that's what these phenotype ratios tell you. And in AP or in honor or college, instead of actually doing Punnett squares, you would just learn the ratios and then answer questions based off of that type of information. So you can start learning these, but for you, the best idea is to do the problems. So to work out the problems, to do the Punnett squares and answer, especially because for the phenotypes that would be true, but down here where I ask about genotypes, you have to look at your Punnett squares. There's no answer to memorize when I do that. So let's take a look at our problems on the worksheet. I did have a few typos, so I have corrected that. I know all of you have the version with the typos, so you might go, that's not what mine says. Just switch it out, as I did correct a few typos on here to get to where we're at. So brown hair is dominant over blonde hair, and brown eyes are dominant over blue eyes. If both parents are heterozygous for both traits, what is the probability? So we're having heterozygous parents. So capital H, lowercase h, capital D, lowercase d. Both parents are this. This is how you get the most mixing and the most different offspring of the chance here. So now notice I put in the boxes for you, or you can make your own 16 boxes, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, when you are doing these problems on your own. So the first step is to figure out what combinations are possible between these parents. So you're trying to figure out what is the possibility in the sperm. So remember, the big H and the little h get separated, and the large D and the small d get separated. So that's the law of segregation. But the law of independent assortment would say you could have any combination of H's and D's that are possible. So any mix, right? Any mix of H's and D's. So we know they each get split apart, law of segregation. Now you can also have any mix. The way you would do this is what I do is FOIL from math class. And if you remember FOIL from math class, you have the parentheses, right? It's parentheses. And FOIL is first, right? So the first one's in the parentheses. So that would be capital H, capital D. And then it is outside. So then you're going the two outside ones, which is H lowercase d. Then inside, right, the FOIL. And so little h capital D. And then last. So this last one and that last one. Lowercase h, lowercase d. Okay, so once again, first, capital H, capital D, outside, capital H, lowercase d, inside, capital H, capital D, or lowercase h, lowercase d, and last, right? So last, little h, little d. Okay, so that's it. Little bit more complicated, right? Now it takes a while to fill out this Punnett square. And you're going to want to put the H's and the D's together because, again, that's how you would understand the problem. So H's together, D's together. H's together, D's together. Okay, and press pause if you're not caught up to me and complete your Punnett square. Once it's complete, let's read the problems. So what is the probability of have brown hair and brown-eyed children? Now, if we think back to what I just said, it would be 9 out of 16. So let's see if I did it correctly. We can find the 9. So what are we looking for? What I usually write is, if I was as a student, I'm just going to write to the side that I'm looking for a capital H and a capital D. Notice I'm putting a little dash because it doesn't matter what the second letter is. So that's what we're looking for, like that capital and capital, capital and capital. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9, and 9 out of 16. Brown hair and blue eyes. So 1 dominant, 1 recessive, probably should be 3. So let's see if we can find them. We would be looking for H something, but we'd be looking for lowercase d this time. So capital H, lowercase d. Initially look for the lowercase d. And sure enough, 3 out of 16. Blonde hair and brown eyes. On your paper it says blue. That was a mistake. So I switched it to what I want, which is for you to have blonde hair, but then you have brown eyes. So we're looking for that situation. So here, here, and here. 3 out of 16. And now blonde hair and blue-eyed children. These are running out. Okay. So blonde hair, blue eyes, like that. So that would be the one down here. Now that was phenotypes. And so we asked for phenotypes. And if you have a heterozygous cross, you are going to get 9331. But a lot of my questions are for genotypes, and there is nothing to remember. You're just going to have to search for genotypes. So homozygous dominant for both traits. So now I'm looking for this. And as I look, I have 1. And I know I didn't look very hard. You will look harder. I know the answer, so that's why I didn't. And then homozygous recessive, so I'm looking for this. Again, I could look really hard. I do know I only have 1. So you could look for it for me. And then same genotype as the parents. So the parents are capital H, lowercase h, capital D, lowercase d. So where are those, right? We have 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, and 1 here. So that is 4 out of 16. Now, are we really going to write 4 out of 16? Heck no, right? We got to reduce to 1/4. And so that is how we do a heterozygous cross. This is the biggest of them all, has the most possibilities among the offspring. Now, as soon as you start getting some homozygous traits, then you're going to have less possibilities for the offspring. So let's look at our next problem. And our next problem, and this time we still have the brown hair, blonde eye, brown hair and blonde hair and brown eyes and blue eyes. But now we're going to have a parent that's heterozygous, so that part stays the same. But the other parent, and I did change this, so the wording in your printed out one is a little wrong. It doesn't matter, just make sure that you follow along with what I'm going to do. So it has blonde hair. I forgot to tell you how they have brown hair, so I added heterozygous. So blonde hair is going to be the lowercase, but heterozygous for brown eyes. Okay. So again, we're going to FOIL. So I'm going to FOIL this parent, capital H, capital D, capital H, lowercase d, lowercase h, capital D, and lowercase h, lowercase d. Then I'm going to FOIL the mom, right? So little h, capital D, little h, lowercase d. Second one in the inside, right? We have little h, capital D, outside, little h, lowercase d. Now, when I'm looking on this side, do I have any repeats? The answer is no. But now, I feel like I need paper here. If I look at the top, do I have any repeats? The answer is yes. I'm allowed to cross out what I repeated. So this crosses out and this crosses out. Okay? So this is a little shortcut. You don't have to do the shortcut. You could fill out all 16 boxes if you want. And I will show you after how if you filled out all 16 boxes, you would still come to the same answer. But I'm just going to fill out the boxes that I need to fill out, which are these. Okay. Now, if I do the shortcut, I now only have 8 boxes, so my answer is out of 8. So that would be the big key. So now my answer is out of 8, not out of 16. So that would be something to keep in mind if you do the shortcut. If you don't do the shortcut, then basically you're going to see that, this is going to repeat here. Okay. So brown hair and brown eyes. Again, I'm still looking for the same thing. So I'm looking for a capital H, anything else, a capital B, anything else. So where do we see that? Capital, 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 capital. No, 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 no. So 1, 2, 3 out of 8. Now what if I didn't do that? I filled this whole thing out and I counted it out. Well, if I kept counting, capital, 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 capital. So how many did I have? 6 out of 16. So had I done the whole thing, I would have come out with 6 out of 16, which if you reduce is 3 out of 8. So by counting, not by crossing them out, I'm like reducing before I do the counts. Again, doesn't matter what's comfortable to you, okay? So brown hair and blue eyes. So brown hair and blue eyes, we need a capital, but then we need lowercase, oops, this is supposed to be a D. Lowercase d, right? So where is that? So here's a lowercase d and a capital. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. So that would be 1 out of 8. And again, if we had done the whole thing, we would have found 2 out of 16, which is 1/8. Blonde hair, brown eyes. I changed that on your notes. So that's, again, I made that mistake twice. Okay. So what are we looking for? We are looking for now blonde hair, but capital. Blonde hair, but capital. Blonde hair and capital. Blonde hair and capital. Blonde hair and capital. So what was that? 3/8. And then blonde hair, blue eyes. 1/8, right? Just this one. Homozygous dominant for both. 0. Now, is it 0 out of 8? Technically, on your choice will be 0 out of 16. I'll go back to that because that's not, you wouldn't reduce that. You could say 0 out of 8 or find the 0 because your choices are going to be 0 out of 16. Homozygous recessive for both. 1 out of 8. Okay. So 0 out of 8, 0 out of 16 is 0. It does not matter, right? Does not matter. But like I said, on the paper, on your choices on the computer will be 0 out of 16, 1 out of 16, 2 out of 16, or 1/8. So 1/8 will be on there. So that was heterozygous and then homozygous and heterozygous, right? So it's kind of like getting a little bit less and less choices when you have mixes. So now look, this I'm not only going to just do simple dominant recessive, but I can mix any of the problems we've been doing. So I can mix dominant recessive with codominant situations with, and then you'll see next one, I'll do blood type. So all of the problems that we've been learning are going to be mixed up to make some of these two trait crosses. So I'm testing for all of your knowledge now. So here we go. In a certain plant, long stems dominate over short stems. Red flowers show incomplete dominance with white flowers forming pink flowers. If a homozygous long stem, I guess, flower with red flowers is crossed with a short-stemmed pink flower, what is the probability they will be? What do you need to? All right. So what are our parents? What are our parents? So homozygous long with red flowers, short-stemmed with pink flowers. We can just make up. Should we see CRCW? That's what I'm going to do. CRCW. We're just going to make that one up. Could be CWCR. Who cares? All right. Now, let us do FOIL. So FOIL. And then we're going to FOIL this side. Little L, CR, little L, CW. Little L, CR, little L, CW. Again, you feel free to fill out all 16, count out of 16. You are allowed to do that. I'm going to do the shortcut, which basically is allowing me to reduce early. So again, but one side at the time. So first, where are my repeats? These all are repeated. I need one of them so I could show it, right? And then I'm going to go here. Where are my repeats? So I have one here, that's a repeat. One here, that's the repeat. So technically, I do not need any of these boxes. I just need these two. And so then we get this. And again, if it's out of 2, then it's out of 2. If we had done the whole thing, we would have come out to, we would have reduced to 1/2. We would get 8 out of 16 or 8 out of 16, which is 1/2. That's why write it all out? It's like reducing in the beginning. So long and red, 1/2. Long and white, this is not white, this is pink, 0. So now 0 out of what? 16, at least on the computer. So 0 out of 16 or 16 out of 16 is always going to be true. All the rest of them, you can do the half out of 2. Heterozygous for both traits. Heterozygous for both traits, 1/2. There you go. So again, you can kind of see sometimes you might need 8 boxes. Sometimes you might only need 2. Sometimes you might need all 16. Last problem. I know you're probably tired of listening to me. So here we go. A woman with type O blood is a carrier for hemophilia, marries a man with type AB blood who doesn't have hemophilia. Boy, this is getting complicated. So it's woman with type O blood, little I, right? I always write it as cursive. I don't know why. I should just do print. And then is a carrier for hemophilia. So this is a woman, so she has to be XX. If she's a carrier, then she's capital and lowercase, right? So notice how all of this information is coming to your head. A man with type AB blood, so that would be this, right? Who doesn't have hemophilia. So he doesn't have hemophilia, so he has the capital A. Now we're going to FOIL just like normal. The X chromosomes are going to mix with the autosomes with independent assortment. So little I is going to mix with an XA, or a little I with an X lowercase a, I, XA, I, XA. And then over here, IA with the XA, IA with the Y, IB with the XA, IB with the Y. So we could check for our shortcuts. These are all different, right? They're all different. Nothing to cross out. What about up here? Oh yeah, we have at least 2 to cross out. So here's another 8-box situation. So we have this. So we have a girl with A blood, right? It doesn't even, not even a carrier. So that's what we're kind of filling out here. A boy with A blood. And a boy who has hemophilia. Okay. Whew. Seems like the most complicated. Blooded type and sex-linked disorders. All right, what is the probability you have type O blood with hemophilia? Nobody is going to end up with type O. 0 out of 16. Same genotype as dad. Oh, I forgot what dad was. Which one's dad? This one's dad. So dad does not have hemophilia, is type AB blood. Nope. Nobody has AB blood. Same genotype as mom. Nope. Type AB blood and healthy. No one's going to have AB blood. So let's do, let's just ask another question. How about type A blood and healthy? What would that be? So here's type A, healthy. Type A, healthy. Type A, healthy. It's a carrier, but remember they're still healthy. Type A, healthy. Type A, not healthy, right? And then these are all type Bs. So 3 out of 8. So how about type A and diseased? 1 out of 8, right? Just this one. And I could do B, etc. So that's it. There you go. I hope I've covered enough examples that you'll be able to be successful on both your practice and your work.